Hi, I'm Pete and this is Pete's Garage Workshop. I have a special build for you today. It's my Navy retirement shadow box. Stick around and I'll show you how I made it.
I had a real hard time deciding on a final design for my retirement shadow box. I made 5 or 6 preliminary designs and came up with these 3 here. I finally picked the last one because I liked how the flag sits on the bottom rather than tucked into a corner. The material I chose for my shadow box is 1/2-inch walnut from a local hardwood supplier. I've been trying not to buy big box store wood anymore because the cost is sometimes more and the selection is not as wide as the specialty wood supplier can offer. The real reason is the big box store is about 10 minutes away, whereas the specialty wood place is literally 5 minutes away from my house. My laziness sometimes pays off. Here I'm ripping the sides, the top and the bottom to 3 inches thick. I also need to cut the sides to house the flag, but I'll come back later and fine tune that. Here's one of the jigs I always wanted to make but had no reason until now. It's a 45-degree table saw sled that cuts miters the long way. Rather than taking my time and planning this jig out, I just plowed through and threw something together. I built a small, let's call it prototype, to test out my ideas. I'm not sure if I'll ever need a larger one for wider panels, but if I ever do, I'll take what I learned here and crank another one out. We'll see. Here's a real quick flyover of the jig in all its glory. Nice little Harbor Freight quick clamp. That block is just brad nailed in place. Now with that out of the way, on to the good stuff. I set up my first cut with the built-in stop moved up. I then flipped the board over and butted the edge up to the stop and cut the other miter. One down, 3 to go. When you really want to make a statement and say, hey, look at me, I'm classy. Everybody knows you use an OG bit. Like my granddad used to say, you can never go wrong with an OG bit. Everybody loves the look, unless you don't record what the profile looks like right after you route it. Way to go. Here I'm admiring my work. At this point, I'm saying, man, I'm knocking this out. I'm doing great. Until I forgot to cut a rabbit for the back panel and didn't film it. On a happier note, I finally made a spline cutting jig. Since the walnut I'm using is only a 1/2 inch thick, I thought, how do I add strength and make it look cool? Splines. Sweet, another reason to make a jig. As you can see, this jig is a simple table saw fence ride-along kind. I threw it together in about 20 minutes, including glue time. I should spend a little bit more time shaping the handle and rounding the corners, but meh. I'm saying I'm gonna do that, but I probably won't. I cut the splines from a piece of pine I had laying around the shop. I know I said I wanted strength, but I caved for the cool two-tone wood look. Since the shadow box will be on the wall and not moving around, I felt pretty comfortable that it would be okay. And here's that sweet OG profile shot I promised. Classy. I didn't get a chance to film me cutting the 2 pieces for the internal flag. It's just 2 pieces of material with a 45-degree miter, and I cut them slightly thinner width to accommodate the plexiglass in the back panel. I put on a light coat of minwax clear gloss polyurethane, installed the plexiglass, and then I went to bed. The back panel was a 1/4 inch piece of plywood that I had laying around. I bought some poster board and this really cool blue fabric from Michaels. Gluing this all down was a bit of a chore, but I was careful to tuck the corners and the edges in just to make it look nice and fit properly. I marked out my holes for the back panel, pre-drilled the holes, and I'm just adding some hardware to hold it down. When I shot this part of the build, I was still waiting for the brass nameplate to show up and a couple of pictures I wanted to include. Thank you very much for watching.